The refugee girl in the dust. The Andros refugee station stank of rot metal and sweat. Built to house 10,000, it groaned under the weight of 60,000 bodies, discarded species, planetary war orphans, and those whose governments had found them too inconvenient to rescue. Near the waist drop-off, a little girl crouched in the shadows. She wasn't human. Her skin shimmered with faint violet undertones beneath a layer of grime. Ragged fur lined her forearms. She had two bright, gold-ringed eyes too large for her face, and a small mouth, trembling as she gnawed a half-chewed ration cube she had fished out of a drainage channel. She didn't speak. She didn't beg. She simply scavenged, eating faster whenever someone approached, like a stray animal fearing its meal would be stolen. No one knew her name. Most didn't care. She was called things, scrapling, rat, or worse. To the others in the camp, she was just another alien cast-off. But not to Commander Nathan Hayes. He watched her from a cracked balcony overlooking the slums of the station. In another life, he'd been a decorated human infantry officer in the War of Breached Suns. Now, he wore the dusty orange vest of a relief coordinator and had the authority of a man that even alien mercenaries hesitated to challenge. He had seen 1,000 broken beings across a dozen shattered worlds, but something about this child twisted a knife inside his chest. She wasn't just scavenging. She was surviving, and she did it with something almost regal. When she lifted her head to drink from a broken pipe, her spine was straight, chin held high. Not defiant, dignified. Hay stepped down into the trash-strewn alley and approached slowly, boots crunching over shattered rations and twisted scrap. The girl froze. Her golden eyes locked on him, wide and unblinking. "I'm not here to hurt you," Hay said softly, setting a sealed food pack on the ground and backing away. "No tricks. Real food. Yours." She stayed at it, unmoving. A tall Glorak merchant passing by snorted. "She's a mongrel. Better off let the vermin starve." Hayes didn't break eye contact with the girl. "Better off you keep walking." The Glorak spat acidic saliva and moved on. Finally, the girl crept forward on all fours and sniffed the packet. Then, with trembling hands, she tore it open and devoured it so fast she coughed. But even then, she didn't look up until he set down a second one. This time, her gaze met his, and for the first time, she spoke. A single word, cracked and raw. "Why?" Hayes crouched down, his expression unreadable. "Because you matter." She tilted her head slightly, not understanding. He sighed. "You've got the look of someone who's lost everything, but hasn't forgotten how to stand." She blinked slowly. The word meant nothing to her, but the tone did. It was gentle. Hayes hesitated, then reached into his vest and pulled out a tiny cloth doll, worn and patched, with missing arms. "This belonged to my daughter," he said quietly. "She died when our home was hit during the Okan raids. I thought maybe it might be better if someone else held on to it now." He offered it. The girl didn't move. Then, slowly, cautiously, she reached out and took the doll, cradling it like it was a living thing. From above, an insectoid worker hissed. "You shouldn't feed her, human. That one's cursed blood. Dangerous." Hayes stood up, towering. "She's just a kid." The insectoid chittered nervously. "You don't know what kind of kid." That night, Hayes returned to his quarters, troubled. He accessed the camp registry. No record of the girl. No identification tag. She didn't exist, officially. But she was real. And something about her stirred something long buried inside him. He pulled up a secure link to a forgotten database, one he'd used during Black Ops missions long ago. Then, using a tiny sample from the food wrapper she'd touched, he ordered a genetic trace. The system processed. Match found. Hayes stared at the result. Subject: Surinai genetic lineage. Royal marker identified. Lineage: direct descendant. House S. Verit. Status: extinct. Assumed. His heart pounded. The little alien girl in the dust wasn't just a refugee. She was the last living heir to a lost empire. A name in the dust, a fire in her eyes. Hayes didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in his quarters, the screen's glow painting deep shadows across his scarred face. The genetic report stared back at him, undeniable in its clarity. Royal lineage, confirmed. House Sveret, exiled monarchy of Surinai Prime. Subject, juvenile female, estimated age, 6 galactic standard years. Hayes remembered Surinai Prime well. 20 years ago, he'd fought on its orbitals during the fall. The palace was bombed, the entire royal family presumed killed. The coup had been swift, the Republic silent. No one lifted a finger for the Surinai after their empire crumbled. And now, the last spark of that lineage was eating trash in his camp. At dawn, he returned to the alley. The girl was still there, curled in a ball with his daughter's doll pressed to her chest. She stirred as he approached and sat up without fear. He offered another meal pack. She took it, but this time, her eyes stayed on him. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She shook her head. Or maybe she didn't understand. Her language was fragmented. She didn't speak Galactic Standard, only soft Surinic syllables, half-formed, whispered like lullabies. He tapped his own chest. "Nathan." She blinked. He pointed to her. "You?" She hesitated, then made a sound. It was quiet, breathy, but carried a weight that stopped him cold. "Eri." Hayes smiled. "Eri, that's a strong name." She didn't smile back, but she held the doll tighter. Back at his station, Hayes called in a favor. An old friend, an AI named Cleo, lived off-grid in the scrap code depths of the Comnet, masquerading as a Junker protocol. She owed him from the war. "Nathan Hayes," Cleo crackled. "You're supposed to be retired, not poking into monarchic bloodlines and assassination cover-ups." "I need to know if they're still hunting her," he said, "and how bad it'll get if they find out she's alive." "They burned 10 cities for less," Cleo replied. "The Scourge Syndicate runs Surinai's space now. They rule through fear and erasure. If she lives, she's a threat to their power." "Good," Hayes said coldly. Maybe it's time they felt threatened. The next few days, Eri stayed close. Hayes gave her space, but slowly helped her clean up. A proper bath, a blanket, a bunk in the back corner of the med tent. She didn't talk much, but she listened. She watched. She learned fast. One night, he found her sketching patterns into the date, spirals and symbols that matched royal insignias he remembered from combat briefings. It wasn't just muscle memory. It was heritage. She may not have known who she was, but her bones remembered. Trouble came faster than expected. A shuttle docked at the camp. No markings, sleek frame, too clean for backwater aid stop. Hayes recognized the model, Galdrek Hunter class, used by contract assassins. The pilot never signed in. Cleo's voice hissed through a private comlink later that night. "They know." "How many?" "Just one, for now. A test kill, to confirm the rumor." Hayes loaded his pistol and locked down Eri's corner of the tent with an override code. He knelt beside her as she blinked awake. "Eri, listen," he whispered. "You're special. Some very bad people are coming because of that." Her gold eyes didn't widen with fear. Instead, she nodded slowly, like she already knew. Hayes touched her shoulder. "I'm going to keep you safe. I swear it." She reached out and touched his chest, mimicking his earlier gesture. "Hayes." He froze. It was the first time she'd said his name. Then she added something else, in soft Surinic, 2 words. He didn't understand them, but Cleo translated later. She said, "You are my sword." That night, in the shadows of the slums, a bounty hunter stalked through the corridors. But he wasn't ready for what waited in the dark. They came to kill a ghost. The air in the Andros refugee station grew colder that night. Not in temperature, but in silence. The kind of silence that made even seasoned smugglers whisper and guards grip their weapons tighter. It crept in like poison gas, subtle and heavy. And in that silence, something lethal stalked the shadows. Commander Hayes stood in the med tent, rifle slung over his shoulder, sidearm checked and loaded. Eri lay quietly beneath the thermal sheets, clutching the ragged doll he'd given her. She didn't sleep anymore. Not fully. She listened, the same way a hunted animal does. Hayes didn't blame her. She could sense it too. Outside, the patrols he'd bribed off duty lay unconscious, stunned, not killed. Professional. Clean. The kind of quiet takedowns only one kind of operator used. Assassins. The intruders slipped into the camp through a collapsed bulkhead vent, bypassing motion detectors and ID scanners. He moved like vapor, 6 limbs, a chitin body, and black armor laced with heat-disruptive tech. His breathing didn't make sound. His boots didn't echo. The data tag on his chest read, REZK. He'd killed royalty before. This was just another job. He reached the medical wing and saw the bed. A small figure under blankets. Still vulnerable. He raised a suppressor-equipped pulse blade. Then Hayes stepped from the shadows. Wrong tent. The flashbang hit the assassin square in the chest. Resk didn't flinch. His armor absorbed most of the blast, but Hayes was already moving, diving behind a rack of 4 tanks, plasma pistol firing tight bursts. Resk spun sideways, letting the shots sizzle past, and lunged with his blade. Hayes rolled beneath a table, knocking over a crash cart to block the blow. Sparks flew as the blade carved through metal. Resk hissed, switching tactics. 2 smaller arms pulled a pair of subsonic darts and launched them. One hit Hayes in the shoulder. The other embedded in the wall behind Ares' bed. Pain blossomed instantly, but Hayes gritted his teeth and swung a heavy med tray into Resk's face. The assassin staggered just long enough for Hayes to fire 3 shots into his chest. The armor cracked, but didn't break. I don't know who sent you, Hayes growled, but you picked the wrong damn species to mess with. Resk lunged again, faster this time. But this time, Hayes was ready. He triggered a makeshift charge he'd hidden beneath the floor earlier. Standard mining explosive, small blast radius. The shockwave tore through the assassin's legs and sent him crashing back through the tent wall. Ari sat up, unharmed, her golden eyes fixed on the writhing assassin outside as Hayes staggered forward, bleeding. She didn't hide. She stood. She walked to the hole in the wall and looked down at the creature that had come to kill her. Her tiny feet stepped over the debris like they belonged on a throne. The assassin's breathing stuttered. She didn't say a word. She didn't have to. A queen had looked down upon her would-be executioner and found him unworthy. Later, in the safe wing of the evac hangar, Hayes patched his shoulder as Cleo's voice crackled in his ear. You just lit a bonfire in a powder room, Nathan. I didn't start it, he said, but I sure as hell won't run from it. That bounty hunter sent out a kill confirmation request before you blew his legs off. His handler will know something went wrong. Then we leave before they follow up. Hayes knelt in front of Ari. You okay? She nodded, scared. Another nod. He reached into his bag and pulled out a worn datapad. A star map glowed on the screen. He pointed to one of the outer rings. Earth. That's where I'm taking you. You'll be safe there. Ari touched the screen, then turned her hand over and placed it over his. She wasn't just scared. She was ready. As the ship launched, Hayes watched the station shrink into the black behind them. He glanced down at Ari, now curled up against his side, her head resting on his arm. Once, he had seen only pain in her eyes. Now, he saw resolve. And something else, a spark. In the shadows of a council chamber light years away, a horned alien governor watched the incoming transmission from a failed assassin. When the file opened, it froze on the image of a small Surinai girl standing over a fallen soldier. The governor's breath caught. No, he whispered. It can't be her. Not her. Not again. He slammed his fist on the table. Send the fleet. The Queen stands upright. The Terran Embassy ship Atlas rising emerged from slip space above Earth, its hull scorched, its passengers silent. Commander Hayes stood at the observation window, one arm in a sling, eyes scanning the blue marble below. Earth, home, a planet that, for all its flaws, still stood up for its own. And sometimes, for others. Beside him, Ari clutched the worn doll against her chest. She didn't look like the child who once licked ration paste from scrap. Her fur had been cleaned. Her clothes, borrowed from the embassy nursery, were neat and fitted. She even wore a tiny silver pendant, the only remaining crest of House Esverit, copied from an old palace seal Cleo had recovered from the datanet. Ari didn't understand everything happening, but she understood one thing. She wasn't hiding anymore. They were greeted not by soldiers, but by diplomats and journalists. EarthGov had made the situation public, partly out of transparency, partly as a warning. Hayes led Heir through the blast doors and into the briefing hall. Flashes from cameras lit the air. Someone shouted, "Is it true? She's Sorenai royalty." Another, "Is this a declaration of war?" Hayes raised his voice. "Earth doesn't seek war, but we will not return a child to executioners." The room fell silent. Heir stood next to him. Then, without instruction, she stepped forward, lifted her chin, and spoke in Cyrillic. Her voice was soft, but clear, full of something new. "Claim." Hayes translated for the room. "She says, I am Aries Verit. I am daughter of the fallen line. I do not ask for vengeance. I ask for truth and the right to live free." The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't need to. They simply listened. Because royalty didn't shout. Royalty stood. Later, in the High Embassy chamber, Earth's officials debated quietly while Heir sat outside the doors with Hayes. "You know," he said, "we could disappear. Fake names. Live quiet. I know places." Heir looked up at him. Her gold-ringed eyes didn't blink. She shook her head. Not in fear. In resolve. "No more running," she whispered in halting standard. Hayes felt a smile twitch at his lips. "That's what I thought you'd say." The doors opened. The ambassador emerged, flanked by a Xenar diplomat and a neutral system observer. "We've made our position clear to the Galactic Assembly," she said. "We will recognize Heir as legitimate heir to House Esferit and grant her full protection under the Terran Accord." Hayes stood. "And the Scourge Syndicate?" The ambassador's eyes hardened. "They've issued a demand for surrender. Earth has issued a reply." The reply came in the form of battle groups. Earth's Navy didn't posture. It moved. Carriers slipped from orbital dock. Planetary defense grids activated. Interstellar trade unions rallied around the meteor storm. Humanity's bold defiance triggered sympathy, fear, and a firestorm of political chaos. What had started as one girl licking scraps in a refugee camp had become a rallying cry. Other Sorenai refugees, long silent in exile, began to rise. Secret gatherings lit up the comnets. The rebellion that had died in darkness now glimmered with hope, because the child they'd thought dead was alive, and Earth had chosen to stand with her. Weeks later, in a restored diplomatic hall on neutral ground, Heir stood before a coalition of representatives. Hayes stood behind her, clean-shaven in a formal EarthGov uniform. Heir's speech was short. "I'm not a ghost. I'm not a symbol. I'm not a weapon. I am Aries Verit. I remember my family. I remember what we lost. But I will not rebuild through blood. I will rebuild through unity. Let those who want peace stand with me. Let those who want war face what humanity taught me. We endure." The room was still. Then, one by one, Sorenai elders rose from their seats. And they bowed. Not in fear. In recognition. A queen had returned, not on a throne of fire, but with dignity and the weight of a species' hope behind her. Afterward, Hay sat with her beneath a quiet starlight dome. "You did good, Heir." She turned, leaned against his side, and asked softly, "Still your sword?" He looked down at her and shook his head with a small smile. "No," he said. "Now I'm your shield."